Hey, what do we have here? Ooh, this is a classic Trek 2200. 2200 model has been around for a good chunk. I'd say about a decade and a half before they went to their singular digits like 2.2 or what have you. But these were actually made in the United States, Waterloo, Wisconsin. And yeah, this is an awesome little bike. We're going to review this gem as a historical piece and go through what is the thumbs up, thumbs down of when you're looking at something like this to buy for yourself in the used market. In any case, we're going to do a 2200 review after this. Hey, welcome back to This Old Bike. Hey, this is Justin from Manila Guy Bicycles, and I'm featuring this 2200 Trek model, a classic aluminum frame built in the United States with a carbon fork with some icon parts. We'll go through the parts a little bit and the frame and so forth. But first I want to tell you a little story how this bike got into my garage for service. It's pretty cool, actually. Yes, one of you out there in YouTube land actually saw several of my videos and decided to choose me to have me work on your classic. This is spectacular because for me, I feel very privileged and also honored for those who entrust me with their gems. And this particular individual didn't buy it brand new, but they've had it for a good couple decades and have done a lot of riding on it. What's interesting about this bike though, it is not just your standard road bike, which it is, but in today's world there's all these disc brakes and electronic shifting and all this thing. But this still has the triple drivetrain, which you have a smaller gear for those monster climbing, where the industry has kind of gone away from that, or actually have, and gone to doubles and single one-bys. I find that as a limitation because you have a shorter range stack in the cassette when you have a triple. When you go with a double, it's more of aggressive jumps between each one of those gears, which makes it a little bit hard to find that perfect gear while you're riding. Well, that's what the cool part about the 105 componentry from Shimano is they made this for about, I would say, 6 or 7 years. Pretty solid stuff, works really well, and is a workhorse componentry. So if it's still in fairly decent shape, yeah, you may need to replace the chain or cassette, but the cranksets and the derailleurs and the shifters, if cleaned properly, will keep going and going and going. This one's in for its full magic tune that I provide, which I'll be stripping the bike down to the frame, doing detailing to the actual bike frame itself, cleaning, detailing, polishing with several layers of ceramic coating to protect that color from fading and also help cleaning and watershed beading. In addition to the drivetrain will be ultrasonic cleaned to the point where it's all ready to go. I also will put a little nice wax coating on all the parts as well as the wheels. Also, to keep note, these wheels are paired spokes, but they're the Rolf wheels, not the Bontraggers that we found to be kind of problematic after this. So these are really solid wheel set. That doesn't make this bike super unique. What is super unique is it's not a 700C wheel, it's a 650. So in the later 90s into the early 2000s, a lot of bike companies were following the Terry Cycles concept of 650 wheels for shorter riders. Trek did this for about 5 or 6 years, maybe not a little bit. Take a plus or minus a couple of years, but you can tell right off the bat on smaller frame there's a huge gap in the actual chainstay. But what this does accommodates the shorter rider to a better performance without fighting a bigger wheel set. Well, some people just get used to the bigger wheel set. Some people always have a hard time with it. This particular bike is a gem because it is a shorter frame. It's kind of like a 48 or a 46, so it can really accommodate that, but also make the individual feel like they're riding a normal bike, not a bike that has bigger wheels that's a little bit more cumbersome, that kind of thing. Well, with the 650 wheels, yeah, you're a little limited on the actual tires, but they still make them as new. So as consumable parts, you're still in the clear for that. But this particular wheel set is pretty solid. But if you come across a bike that has the Bontrager ones with the 650s and you develop cracks, there is a place you can actually find those particular wheels or have them hand built without breaking the bank. And I'll show you where that is now. Bicycle Wheel Warehouse in California has an excellent selection of wheels to choose from. They're pre-built, or also you can have them custom built up to various sizes. you can reach out to them directly if you have something unique like the 650 wheel or a different style hub. Therefore, it makes it an excellent bike wheel set company that actually provides good wheel sets without breaking the bank. You will find them being very trusted and true. They really hold up under a lot of different riding conditions and so forth. It takes the standard old school wheel building practices and puts them in a better format. But in any case, this is a wheel set you'll be really love to have. It'll perform for you for a long period of time, and the quality and the attention to detail is superb. You'll find information about this company in the description below, with also my personal coupon code. I hope you find a good wheel set where it works for you. So even though this bike is good 25 years old now, it is in immaculate shape. The paint is really in good condition. Has some little stickiness that she wants me to remove, as I'll do that when I'm doing detailing. A couple things to note on a bike like this. It does have a 1-inch head tube, so therefore you can be a little bit limited for the actual fork replacement if you want to switch it out. They still make the threaded and also a headset 1-inch steer tube, so you can actually upgrade this fork if you wanted or change out if need be. Also, it's a threaded headset, therefore it's a little more of adjustment and so forth. I'm going to clean this up and overhaul it and double check and make sure it's secure. The other limitation on a 1-inch headset is the stem itself. It is a quill style, old school. They do make conversions to change that out. This bike actually fits her pretty good, so we're not going to have to do any of that kind of adjustments. Also, this already came with a micro stem, so whatever they did back in the day to fit her, they did it pretty close. But then again, when you get older, your bike needs to change with you. But you can still get different stems that bring her up higher, further out, whatever needs to be done to accommodate that aging of yourself, because your bike, well, it does age, but it doesn't get bigger or smaller or whatever you want to look. But this is a 105 shifter set, and actually it's in immaculate shape. I will ultrasonic clean these, get all the gunk out of it, but it is shifting really smooth and clean. So with that, I'm going to try to save the tape because they did an awesome wrap job themselves, which is a thumbs up. Good for you. And this particular stem was kind of cool because it was one of the first ones where you can pop the front top out. That way you can actually change the stem out without taking the whole wrap and bar off. Before that, the quills were just a one piece on that. So the limitations there a little bit, but I don't see that as a burden because you can find a lot of those bikes and do some conversions and make that bike that may be a little bit older, but a solid, nice ride. And again, we have talked about the 650 wheel set. These are actually in really good shape, and the tires should be fine. But on this particular tune-up, I'm going to replace all the cables and housing as well, so it's going to shift and brake a little more efficiently with the newer stuff. One of the issues that she brought it in is, well, this is pretty common, and what happened here is when you get into the big gear, it starts catching the spokes. Well, what that is the derailleur hanger is bent. Could happen in transport. Usually it's when you do a little biff, you fall down, you knock this derailleur, which bends this derailleur hanger. This is a replaceable one back in the day, and you can still get replacements, which is a thumbs up. And also with the tool, I'll be able to realign that so we can make it a little more safe and shift more appropriately. And you want to be careful on this because if it catches up on that spoke, it can actually rip that derailleur off. So you want to be really mindful of when you're having any issues of that nature, have it addressed and fixed. You don't need to go buy the $90 tool yourself to take it down to your local bike shop, have them do an alignment for you real quick. Therefore, it saves you the money and make sure it's done correctly so it'll shift better for you. Well, again, I have the privilege of working on this classic 2200. I was working at a Trek dealer when these were new. Actually, I was still at Parker Bikes by my parents' bike shop. So yeah, they have a higher grade welds on these, and they actually stole those weld designs from Gary Klein when Trek acquisition Klein itself. So you actually had nice welds, good alpha aluminum tubing, SL super light aluminum tubing, also made in the United States, has a nice little sticker there. So yeah, it was a great product being produced in Waterloo, Wisconsin back in the 90s, where Trek did a good solid of trying to make a lot of bikes in the United States until they had to switch gears and switch them all over in 2007. So when you look at that period up to 2005 to 2007, they were keeping the 2200s and 2300s, which is their aluminum line, and when they had to switch over to overseas and basically were being built in Taiwan, they went to the 1.2, 1.1, so forth. So that's where you have the age delineation between United States made to the overseas made, which they still had pretty good quality products built over there because they'd have their engineers live over there and oversee all the production of it. But in any case, this is one of those classics. They ride great, solid. If you find something like this in your neck of the woods and it fits you, fit is always first. And if it was something you want to indulge in, you can probably pick up one of these not too expensively. And actually, this one's in immaculate shape, so I'm really excited to see how I can get it to from this state of condition, which is actually good, to even better. In any case, got to crank some tunes, clean some parts, and we'll do a little recap where we're at when we're cleaning parts and inspection of that. All right, hold on your hats. This is going to be a fun one. Another Guy Bicycles, hanging with the guy. Hey, I'm Justin, the guy in the garage. I do have a garage shop, and you see most of these tools behind me. I want to do a shout out to Jensen's USA, which you'll find a link below if you're looking for some good pricing and as well tools to fit or to expand your actual shop at home. Well, here we have the wheels, been trued. I mean, look how clean. A little layer of coating. This I use this ceramic wax in all the parts, so when I clean the rims. And also you want to clean the rims with rubbing alcohol after you do any kind of waxing or prepping because you don't want it to be slick. So the rear wheel, front wheel turned out great too. Here's the parts. You got the front derailleur, all shiny clean, just need a little bit. Put a little of that wax coating on the jockey pulleys. It's all cleaned up. And rear derailleur. We'll reassemble and put a little bit of polish on the bottle cage to keep its color, as well as brake pads, a brake set. And then I'll sand the pads down after it's all been prepped. Shifters came out really good. They need to be lubed. I use tri-flow foam to go inside these shifting mechanisms where it gives it a nice light coating. And I took the chain rings completely off so I can get to super cleaning. I mean, look how yeah, those are almost cleaner than the new. In any case, cassette, and we'll have to check that cassette with the new chain. I'm going to be using a pre-waxed stainless steel Connex chain. What's nice about Connex chains is they have this power link, or not a power link, but their own Connex link, and you can take it, reusable is one, and number two, it can be taken on and off without any tools. So there is the parts as we sit, and there's the front wheel. You can see how shiny and ready and new looking it is. The BAM, just finished polishing the bike. This is pre-ceramic coating. I use a two-stage compound with a polish from Adams and with a Dremel tool, which is a kind of like a polishing tool. I decided to go with one of those because it's a little bit easier, smaller. It's this guy right here. You'll find a list in my description below and underneath my Amazon store. And there's the Adams polishes and compound too. Well, prior to doing the ceramic coating from Ceramic Slam, you can use also any other ceramic coatings if you want, but I like the lithium because it really stacks well. This is rubbing alcohol, so you want to clean the frame first with rubbing alcohol. So we'll do a little detailed explanation of that here shortly. But man, look at that frame. The sun coming in from the garage. I mean, it just polished, pops. That decaling blue. So what that ceramic coating is going to do is added protection of UV, but also it's going to give it an little extra shine as well, as we'll show in a moment. But man, brought that back to life. Ceramic coating, basically all the work is the prep, cleaning, and polishing is really the uplift. Same thing on cars. When they do cars, it's all the labor of detailing, getting that paint to its perfection level and correction before you put the ceramic coating. It's basically like I wouldn't say a clear coat, but it's like a shell that you're putting over it, a chemical barrier protecting against contaminants. Water beading gets really tight and also sheds the dirt and grime, as well as added UV protection. So use a little bit of rubbing alcohol on a very clean cloth, and then you want to wipe down the surface. What that is doing is removing any kind of polish compound left over, so the ceramic coating will adhere to the clear coat. as best as possible. And once you go through the whole frame, I mean, you don't have to go super deep on this, just to kind of a good little wipe down to make sure those very particular areas you want to have better protection. For road bikes and mountain bikes, I like to get a little extra underneath because that's where all the kick up is from grime, dirt, and everything. So I like to give it a little extra something with the ceramic, maybe a third stack underneath that. Give it an extra protection barrier to protect that frame paint and make it easier to clean when you get in that muckety situation. So here we have an applicator. This is how I do it. You want to do this in a well-ventilated area. I got a couple of fans here. The garage door is open. Don't want to inhale this stuff, of course. And also put it on a pan, and also gloves as well. I like just to not spray on the actual bike itself. That's what goes with pretty much anything. I will apply it to the applicator pad here to keep the fumes down. And then I apply. And when you're applying, I like to go over the frame twice with one application. What that means is when I go through the whole frame, it gives me the opportunity to make sure I got all the little bits, because unlike cars, this is multiple surfaces, angles, very tight corners and stuff. So it makes it a little bit harder to get it in all those crevices all in one shot. So I do it a couple times with one coating. That's not adding any extra protection. It's just making sure I get everything coated. And then when I do the second stack, which means another layer, therefore I'm going to do the same thing. And that ensures that everything gets covered at least once, if not twice. And that's why I do a 2-stack. And on the second stack, I make sure I get those high density areas like underneath, where the grime kicks up from road riding or mountain bike riding, what have you, and so forth. But in any case, that's the first stack. You let it dry for about 10 to 15 minutes, depending on your neck of the woods. The humidity and so forth will affect that. What they call it flashes. You'll see a dull. And once you get to that stage, you want to take a super clean fiber cloth, and what they call is knockdown. And you'll feel a tug on this at first. And when you push it down, it'll get super, super slick. Once you have done that, it needs to cure for about 4 hours, if not longer. I'm going to leave this one overnight and do the second stack tomorrow morning, then proceed to finish the tune-up and putting all the parts on. What that does is gives it the opportunity to completely cure and get that second level on there, so you get the added protection as much as possible. That's the real time-consuming portion of the actual ceramic coating, is not necessarily just the application of it. That's pretty quick in most cases. It's the time between you got to wait, and also all the prep work and cleaning before you actually decide to put this stuff on, because you don't want to put it on something dirty because you're just smashing that dirt on there. If you do need to remove it, rubbing alcohol does remove it, and there's other chemicals and cleaners out there that will do the same. But it's pretty tough stuff, so you want to make sure you start off with a very clean, polished surface first area. But hey, let me finish doing this and tune on some tunes, and then we'll let it cure, and we'll see the final results after this. Got a whole bunch of bike stuff, and you just need to get rid of it. You know, no longer needs to be in your garage, needs to be in somebody else's garage, and actually, hey, maybe being used. Go to bikeflights.com. You can actually open an account yourself, or just put in a one-time usage, put in the destination, so forth, the bike size, dimensions, and weight. Don't forget the weight. And add that insurance, because you'll definitely want to make sure that insurance is covered if something happens in that UPS or FedEx or whatever transfer going to that next destination. You want to be protected. Then you just have to drop it off at your local UPS store and be able to get it on its way. And again, I have shipped bikes, parts, wheels, and frames for decades now, and Bike Flights is sure enough one of the best directions to go. So first, the bike, when it was initially designed, it was designed to do or fit smaller riders back in the late 90s, early 2000s, using the 650 wheels, which you still can get the wheels and the tires, but they're a little bit less of a choice, if you will, if you're going to purchase. This particular frame was the aluminum SL Alpha Super Light aluminum. it's, you know, a butted high grade weld. They're not really raised beads, so they're using a lot of the Gary Klein's welding styles to create this bike. And the 105 componentry is the third level down. So this was a really solid bike for any recreational rider, even into light racing and so forth. And even though it has a 1-inch head tube with a 1-inch wheel stem, you can do conversions and you can still get forks and so forth if you wanted to upgrade to a different bladed fork. This is a carbon fork. This is what they had the Icon series with the Icon C-pose stem and front fork before Bontrager took over all the names of the bits and parts. Icon was actually a brand that Trek acquired early on. Not really a big brand, but known for like the tri parts back in the day. But this was made in Waller, Wisconsin, and the Rolf wheels were another acquired brand from Trek, and they did really well with them for the time being. And Rolf is still around. They still make wheel sets as well. Did some little, you know, detailed work, you know, little gold end caps with a gold cap here on the back that I found on my extra bits, just to add a little sense of style. It's all about style, right? So, yeah, technically it's fine-tuned. Does it work perfectly? It works pretty darn good for its age. The front shifting's a little hesitant, but I think it was kind of inherent to be that way anyway. I did ultrasonic clean the shifters to get all the gunk out. So it does shift really well. It is clean. It's just the triple hesitation on this versus the Ultegra is one thing to note, that if you wanted something a little bit shift smoother for a triple, the Ultegra is probably a little bit better, but not huge. And quite honestly, for a lot of most riding, the two big rings is what most people ride in. That small one's like a 2%er. So any case, it is nice to have though when you do hit some of those monster hills. But this individual, she says she's a grinder. She rides mostly on the big ring and the small ones in the back. I did double check those under load. With my chubbiness, I definitely put some torque on that, and it held that new chain, so the cassette is just fine. So those are the kind of things you don't really know until you know after you put a new chain on it and do a test ride. They did have cassette checkers like the roll-offs back in the day. It kind of worked, not necessarily that well. It's really just testimonial of getting on the bike and actually putting some tension on it. But in any case, with a high-level tune-up, with the ceramic coating, with the wax chain, new cables and housing throughout, and I use a higher grade of housing as well as stainless steel cables, which is a little bit smoother and of course less corrosive, and with a lined housing for the shifting that has a grease lining in it which prevents contaminants from getting in there. So like in the back rear derailleur, it prevents that drawing of it. So there's a lot of attention to detail on my higher end tune-ups, and a lot of shops have this as well. But for me, it's something that's a passion piece, and my particular business model doesn't rely on volume. It's more quality over quantity. So when you look at this particular bike, it came in on like 4 days ago. It got to it about 2 days in, and through the next 2 days between cleaning the parts, slitting the ceramic coating, and you gotta let that stack. And I like to leave it for 12 hours to 24 hours before I apply another stack, even though you can wait to go down to 4 hours. That just enables it to make sure it's really cured and you have that next level on there. And with those particular attention to details, with waxing the parts and cleaning off the rims and rubbing alcohol and so forth, really just kind of makes this bike the best condition it is and perform as best as possible. And quite honestly, on new bikes, I do the three basic, or the three things you need for a brand new bike. Well, ceramic coating in the frame is really nice. It protects that new fancy panty paint job you may have gotten on that bike. Wax chains are actually a very beneficial, increases your wattage and also prevents wear and tear on the drivetrain. And then the third thing for me is I provide a fit. She's got some new pedals, so she's going to bring in some new shoes, and we're going to do some cleat adjustments on the trainer and make sure it's all adjusted for her and all the points are just, you know, a good static fit. So she getting back into riding. She's had this bike for nearly 20 years. And she's transitioning from running back into cycling, and I want to give her the best experience possible. So therefore, I did everything I can. Well, I pretty much do that with every bike I work on, but it's one of those things where if you drive your passion as a bike shop individual, mechanic, owner, or what have you, it's going to actually show in fly colors to the customer and get them jazzed about cycling. So that's the whole bottom line, building the community and so forth. But in any case, thanks for hanging out with me in the garage and checking out this gym. It is one excellent ride. If you're finding yourself need a smaller little frame with 650 wheels, there are some really nice full carbon ones from Trek. They made like the Trek 5000 and 5200, I believe, in a full carbon version of these. And if you need if you're height restricted and don't feel very comfortable on a 700C wheel, this is something you can really get into with the 650s. And yes, you still can get parts and wheels built for it, and I do have links below where you can find those parts. And in any case, you could take a gym like this and it's going to actually possibly fit better, perform better, and ride a lot smoother for you than even brand new bikes are coming off the showroom floor. Nothing against brand new bikes, but some of these classics actually much more superior than what's coming out, especially for the price point. In any case, thanks for hanging out with me on this old bike in the garage, and if it's nice in your neck and woods, please go for a ride. And if you like content like this, please like and subscribe and share. This is a community I'm building up, and if you want to watch me on my other channel, I Know a Guy Bicycles, it's a little more grittier, I guess. In any case, this is more your subtle, this old bike series. Thanks again for hanging out, and have a wonderful day.